Welcome back to DES Trucks. In today's video, we're going to be discussing which engine is better, the 6.2 versus the 7.3 liter Godzilla V8. So let's get the hood popped on the 7.3 and take a look at it. Now, from the outside looking in, what can you really see? They both look kind of the same. There's definitely some pros though that come with the 7.3 compared to the 6.2 gas, but there's a lot of pros too with the old school 6.2 liter gas V8. And it's been a while since I really looked under the hood, and I'm very excited to be looking underneath this one right now. This is a 2019 with the 6.2, and taking a look around here in the engine bay, I am pleasantly surprised to see that there is room. I know one of the biggest things that was said about the 7.3 is that it's going to be a pushrod engine now, and there's going to be so much room in the engine bay because it's a pushrod engine. But looking at these engines, I got the 6.2 right here. I'm going to pop over to the 7.3 and look. Let's take a quick gander at this one. To me it looks like there's the same amount of room to work, if not more, on the 6.2. So I think that whole idea that there's more room on the 7.3 being a pushrod engine, I feel this engine is just the same size as the 6.2. Maybe the heads are a little bit smaller, but it's not making a huge difference on working room, I don't think, in my opinion. So I know pushrod engines tend to be smaller. This is just a big old pushrod V8. It's not little like a LS engine. This engine's bigger. So one of the pros with the 6.2 is just the time that Ford's been running this engine, the amount of these produced over the years, the fact that it was used in F-150s in the form of the Raptor, or a higher output or higher towing package F-150, not even just Raptors, but a lot of F-150s got this engine. A lot of Super Duties got this engine. There weren't as many options. You could get like the 6.2, or you could go all the way to the V10, and that was usually in bigger trucks. So all your non-diesel Super Duties that were pickup truck versions were generally going to be 6.2. So you got a lot more of these on the road, and the reliability, the record of reliability with the 6.2, very little is known to go wrong with these. A little bit of valve train issues, but valve springs can break, but they still pretty rare. They're known to easily go 300,000 miles. They typically outlast the bodies. Now with the aluminum trucks, aluminum's vehicles have only been on the road for since 2017, but the steel body trucks, the engine would certainly outlast the body. That may be different now with the aluminum bodies, but tried and true, very little to go wrong, super reliable. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the 6.2 is a more reliable engine than the 7.3. Another benefit though is, if you look, this engine has 16 spark plugs instead of 8.
More than that one.
Yeah, this one's got more spark plugs than the 7.3, and I'd imagine that helps with the performance, as it has way more firing, way more spark ignition power. Some guys would modify vehicles in the past, and they would put like bigger coils, more powerful coils, and see benefits from doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if this spark ignition system was just superior to what is offered on the 7.3. I think, looking at this, what do we have? Do we have 16 coils, or do we have 8 coils but 16 plugs? It looks like there's a coil that's on your plug, and then there's a wire going to the lower plug. So maybe it shares a coil. I don't know, but it definitely has more spark plugs, and I think it lends itself to having a longer period of time before this truck requires a tune-up, because all that spark ignition is spread across more spark plugs. So I think they're probably going to end up lasting longer. Now, shooting over to the 7.3, this engine from Ford, despite them telling us it's going to be so reliable, we're going to this old school technology, this pushrod technology is going to be so reliable, it's not as reliable. This valve train does not last as long as the roller rocker design that is on the 6.2. I think it's probably less efficient to transfer your motion through a push rod and a lifter versus what's going on with the 6.2. So I think that this valve train is just, it's a good valve train, and yeah, LS engines are great, but this is not as long lasting as what is on a 6.2. And that's really where we have our issues, because that one little, can I call it a flaw, or can I call it just inferior to the other design? That will take out the whole engine. So if you lose your engine to that, despite everything else on this motor being better crank, potentially better pistons, I think, the bottom end is very strong and very well built, but if the top end takes it out, it defeats the purpose. We don't have issues with the bottom end of the 6.2. Now, this engine is going to be cheaper for Ford to make. It's got way less spark plugs. You could only imagine those spark plugs is millions and millions of dollars of lower cost for Ford. That valve train, that pushrod valve train, millions and millions of dollars of lower cost for Ford. So this is making Ford more money than the 6.2 would, because that engine, the 6.2, I would bet that it's significantly more money to build a 6.2 V8 for Ford. And the profit's going to be a little bit higher with the 7.3. Now, on to the benefits of the 7.3. It's bigger, so you get a little bit more power, which is nice, but it's not so much more power that you're going to really drive it faster or anything like that. This will tow a little more weight in it, and if it's geared correctly, like how this is, this thing easily tows 15 to 20,000 pounds, and it doesn't have really any problems doing that. You get near 20,000, you start to slow down for sure a little bit, but it still gets the job done. One of the benefits to the 7.3 is you got the use of a dual alternator. So the room is there now to have that dual alternator. That sounds good.
It sounds pretty good.
When people hear that and then they see what it's coming from, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it does sound pretty good.
That's some neon, huh? Let me see that for a second. So when you look in here and you see this dual alternator, that is a huge benefit. Now, what I could also point out is there's no real reason why you can't have that same dual alternator on that 6.2. It would be possible. It probably comes down to just the unit of cost is so much lower for the 7.3 that now they can offer that dual alternator and other little odds and ends because they've saved that money on the engine. So not really specific to this engine being a better engine, but that is available on the 7.3 and that was never available on the 6.2. But push rods are not better for the end client. It's better for the manufacturer because it is a cheaper drivetrain to produce. But which one would I get? If it were up to me for this application, I think I would go with the 6.2. It's a smaller displacement. It's probably a little bit better on fuel compared to 7.3, just because it's just a little bit smaller. Not a huge difference, but every little bit counts, and the 7.3 is just going to use more fuel. And the reliability, you know, what point would it be for me to go that much faster? It's not really going to really go faster, to be honest. If we line these up and race it, this truck will win because it's lighter. But if you gear this down to 430 with a 6.2 or a 7.3, it don't matter. I think you're going to get more noticeable performance increase by your gear ratio versus whether you have a 6.2 or a 7.3. As far as how they run, having had both of them, the 6.2, it runs better than the 7.3. It runs smoother, it idles better, and it cruises the road better than the 7.3. The 7.3 does not run as smooth as the 6.2. Now, having that engine for so many miles never gave me a problem out of the 6.2. The 7.3, the oil analysis reports that we've done on it indicate that there could be some issues inside of the engine. And that's just a real world experience that we've had with the 7.3. It hasn't really done anything where it's like lost power, too much power at least. But the way that it runs now, it's got 30,000 miles. It seems like it needs a tune-up sometimes when it's just starting up. The way that it sounds, it seems like maybe it could use some spark plugs. And that's known that this 7.3 is kind of hard on spark plugs. That's not an issue with the 6.2. So if it were my money and it were an option, I would get the 6.2. As we go forward in the future, we don't have that option anymore. So we'd have to go with either the 7.3 or the 6.8. They're both similarly designed, but the 6.8 is just gonna have like lower compression and a little bit less power. But comment below, let me know what you think, and I'll let you guys know what I think. So my name is Sean, this is DS Trucks. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Over and out.